Bienvenidos una vez más a este su podcast favorito con el que no pueden vivir. El día de hoy estaremos hablando de amor propio. Creo que en inglés se dice self-love.
Welcome back to the podcast that exists to enrich and inspire young Latinos.
Bienvenidos al podcast que existe para enriquecer e inspirar a jóvenes latinos. Y para esta conversación el día de hoy tenemos a Deborah y al famosísimo leyenda urbana Jake. ¿Cómo están, muchachos?
Hola, buenas tardes, días.
Hey everybody, doing good, excited to have Deborah on.
Excited, nervous, here we are.
Deborah, are you excited?
Yes, I am excited. This is a good topic, vulnerable topic también puede ser.
A ver qué pasa.
Yeah, a ver qué
We're
pasa.
just going to have a conversation. So, yo creo que la pregunta, the question that we don't want anybody to ask us, and I will say that probably none of us know how to answer in a very specific way is, do you love yourself? ¿Te amas? It's complex. What do you guys think about? I mean, how would you answer that question, Jay?
Yeah, I think it's a scary question, and I've been thinking about it as we've been preparing for today's episode, and every time I think about it, I come up with a different answer. So I think that's like what you're referring to, that it's hard to answer. Y creo que para mí, in reflecting over the last couple of days, I would say that I thought I loved myself until the last week, just some stuff that's happened, and speaking to a priest in confession, and just kind of letting go of some baggage in confession and getting some spiritual guidance from the priest, and kind of realizing I think I haven't been loving myself for a while, or at least not as much as I thought I was, but I think I'm on the road to starting to do that better.
Awesome. Debbie, what do you think?
In my head, I say that I love myself, right? Es una batalla interior with, I want to say my upbringing, que you hear all this negative, well, at least for me, right? When I say you, I mean me. You hear all of this negative stuff que te dicen, estás fea, estás gorda, and you start believing it. So it's kind of like a battle that I have within myself. Do I love myself? I think so. I want to say that I do. I mean, me consiento, that's different, you know. I buy myself whatever I want. Me compro. I mean, I spoil my family, to some extent. But do I love myself? Yes, but it's hard. It's hard.
I'm gonna go at it, Debbie.
Yes.
I hear you say te consiento, me consiento, and my question will be, what if ¿qué si de la manera que te consientes, en vez de amarte, te estás no amando? Te voy a dar un ejemplo.
Okay.
Nos vamos a dar un ejemplo. No, comer nieve todas las noches. ¿Es eso amarnos? Por decir, tienes diabetes y comes nieve con azúcar todas las noches. Eso es consentirte.
Yes.
But is that love?
No.
No,
because...
right.
I shouldn't be eating it. Y ayer, me comí una, pero bien rica.
Sí.
And I'm like, I have no business eating this.
Yeah, so with this, I'm going to take the conversation into, there's really 4 dimensions that I want to talk about humanity, right? 4 dimensions to our life. And one of the dimensions is or physical care, el cuidado de nuestro cuerpo. Y simplemente en el cuidado de nuestro cuerpo, para saber si amamos a nuestro cuerpo, hay muchas preguntas que tenemos que responder, ¿no? La primera es, ¿comemos lo que es bueno para nuestro cuerpo? ¿Comemos lo suficiente o comemos de más? ¿Dormemos lo suficiente o no dormemos lo suficiente? ¿Trabajamos lo suficiente? Es decir, ¿le damos a nuestro cuerpo la actividad física necesaria para que tenga una salud cardiovascular saludable? Tomamos quizás las vitaminas para asegurarnos que tengamos los minerales suficientes. Es decir, no más en el aspecto físico, para saber si nos amamos, no más en la dimensión física de salud corporal. Hay muchas preguntas a las que tenemos que contestar, ¿no? La mayoría de la mayoría de nosotros, quizás es la primera cosa que pensamos, ¿no? Me amo, pues si acepto mi cuerpo, me amo. Si no acepto mi cuerpo, no me amo tanto. Pero en realidad, ¿qué es bueno para nuestro cuerpo? ¿No? ¿Qué es cómo lo alimentamos y cómo lo cuidamos? Y yo creo que ahí ya nos atoramos todos, ¿no? Uh-huh. La mayoría de nosotros no hacemos el ejercicio necesario, la mayoría de nosotros no comemos la comida que alimenta verdaderamente nuestro cuerpo, sino que quizás lo envenena, no descansamos de la manera necesaria, ¿no? Entonces, ¿qué piensan? Nomás del cuidado físico y la salud física.
Yeah, yo creo que something really important and that I just learned in the last few years is that you should love yourself the way that you are, but because you love yourself, you should want to be better. So we're talking about physical, right? Like growing up, I was super skinny. I graduated high school weighed like 130 pounds, just like really underweight for my height. And eventually, like after college and during college and all this time, gained weight, kind of filled out, and then was at a happy weight at like the start of 2020, but wanted to gain muscle. And then the pandemic hit, and then the gyms closed, and I was finally gonna go, and now I can't. Wasn't actually. Who knows if I would have actually gone? But now I really couldn't go. So I gained like 20 pounds, but just like in my stomach, and it was all just like a gut, from just all the trash that I was eating. And I had never weighed so much. I was at like 190, and I never weighed more than like 170 in my life. So I remember doing the Iskali 5K that year, and it was 3 miles. And then the first mile, I thought I had COVID because I couldn't breathe. I was like, oh my God. Like, what is, like I really thought I was sick. And it was just my body telling me like, yo, what are you doing? Like, what's going on here? You've never weighed this much. You've never been this heavy. It was like...
You never run.
Yeah. You don't run anymore.
Why are you running?
And why was I running?
What is this activity?
I just hadn't done anything for like a year, and it was really bad. And so then last year in 2021, I told myself, you're gonna lose this weight. And even then, it still took me months to finally like take it seriously. Finally, like in the second half of the summer is when I started to run consistently, and that helped me. And then also watching what I was eating, because I've always, por lo mismo que siempre estuve bien flaquito, like I would eat whatever, I wouldn't gain weight. But just because I was skinny didn't mean I was healthy, right? All the sugar and all that stuff, all the salt. And through, I think through Exodus 90 and like the fasting too, I realized like how important the food that we eat was, to the point where like now I'll drink a soda and I feel bad. Whereas before I didn't care. Now I'll drink a soda once a week and I'm just like, I should be drinking water. But I know that that's good because I'm finally in a place in my own head where like I know better, and I try to do better for the most part, and I think I do. So the eating better, I think, has been something super important for me. I think what I'm struggling with now is finding how often to eat, because I remember hearing a podcast during COVID where we were saying like, well, since you're not going out to work and you're not doing regular things, you kind of change the way that you eat, because you don't have to eat breakfast, lunch, and dinner when you're just at home all day. And you're able to just like eat at noon and you eat at 6 and that's it, or whatever, right? And I find myself eating at like random hours, which I think is fine because that's what I've learned from like through fasting, and that you can eat whenever, you just have to eat the right amount. So I think for me, I need to find right now the right amount that my body needs, and at like the time that's going to work for me. So I think that's been a struggle. Physically, I think I've been much better overall with the exercise. And I think that really was what I struggled with the most, was like when I gained the weight, I was like, no, you got to love yourself. So I was like, I can stay like this because I love myself, But, yeah.
What are your thoughts, Debbie?
Yeah, I've struggled with my mi peso toda mi vida. Pero por muchos años it was mental. Que growing up me decían, estás gorda. And I'm like, okay, So tenía esa mentalidad en la cabeza, well, obviously mentalidad, que yo estoy gorda. At 14, my dad got my sister and I a personal trainer because in his head, we were so fat. And I remember being 14 and going to this personal trainer and thinking like, okay, well, I guess I need to work out because, I don't want to be unhealthy. And now when I look back at those pictures, I'm like, wow, I looked really good, but I didn't see that. I didn't see myself like that. So my whole life, I've struggled with this, I'm big, I'm fat. Cuando en realidad, ahora sí tengo unas libritas extra, pero growing up, I didn't. I was a normal person. I developed more, I guess, physically than other girls my age. So maybe that made me look a little bigger than others, pero no era. I looked, when I look now, I was like, wow, I looked good. Pero last year I did get really bad anxiety, que nomás quería estar comiendo. I got like anxiety and depression last year after my husband passed. And I gained about 40 pounds. That weight, I've lost it since. Pero I was justifying myself. I'm sad, so no one can tell me anything, right? I'm eating, and I was eating. And so finally I came to like a place where I accepted, I was at peace, and the weight just kind of fell off on its own. And then now I do have a personal trainer, and I do work out with them. Pero yeah, me entró una ansiedad that I just kept on doing it, and illnesses come with it, right? I have high blood pressure. Now I have to take medication. El otro día me llamaron que you're on the verge of high cholesterol. And I'm like, now I have high cholesterol. Now I got to take care of it. So it's like, no esperar hasta que te lleguen las enfermedades to realize like, okay, I have to love myself. Not just because I have red lipstick on now, I look pretty and I love myself. No, I have to take care of myself. What vitamins am I putting into my body? Like you said, Vicente. What am I doing so that now I don't have a chronic illness where I have to be taking medication all the time?
Sí, he escuchado, la verdad no sé si esto sea verdad, que aproximadamente el 70% de las enfermedades se pueden evitar con una dieta saludable y una buena rutina de ejercicio, ¿verdad? Yo personalmente, creo que esta es el área, la dimensión en mi vida con la que más batallo, ¿no? Porque yo digo, si lo demás está bien, aunque me mire feo. Y uno empieza a justificarse, ¿no?
Yes.
Uno empieza a justificarse.
100%.
Hay otros más gordos que yo. Hay otros más grandes que yo. Ese está más joven y mira lo que... Entonces, yo creo que la manera para mí apropiada de mirar esto es, en verdad, el amor propio. De decir, ¿qué se merece mi cuerpo? ¿Unos Doritos o una naranja? O sea, verdaderamente, ¿qué se merece mi cuerpo? No qué es lo que mi cuerpo quiere, sino qué es lo que mi cuerpo se merece. ¿Verdad? Mencionaste también algo importante ahorita, Debbie, que yo creo que ¿cuántos de nosotros no hemos ido al dentista para cuidarnos nuestros dientes? ¿Cuántos de nosotros no íbamos al oculista para cuidarnos nuestros ojos? ¿Cuántos de nosotros no vamos al doctor porque no queremos saber si estamos enfermos, no? Entonces, el amarnos también implica ir a las citas del doctor. Si no has ido a una cita de doctor para un chequeo general, a lo mejor estás en un espacio donde pudieras evitar algo. Pero eso no se escucha atractivo. ¿Quién quiere ir al dentista, al oculista, al doctor?
Yeah.
Nadie, ¿no? Pero es verdaderamente donde nosotros nos demostramos que nos amamos. Entonces, para todos los que nos están escuchando, ojalá esto pudiera servir como una invitación, ¿no? ¿Qué implica amarme? Implica todas estas cosas que son bastante complejas. A lo mejor como lo propio, pero no ejercito lo indicado. A lo mejor como y ejercito lo indicado, pero no voy al doctor. Entonces, buscar un balance en decir qué es lo que mi cuerpo se merece y poder preguntar desde lo que yo me merezco, desde lo que mi cuerpo se me merece. ¿Me amo? ¿Estoy amando a mi cuerpo? Podría ser un buen lugar para comenzar. Ahora, voy a pasar a una dimensión que no nos gusta hablar de ella, que es la dimensión espiritual. La dimensión espiritual tiene que ver con que, aunque no lo reconozcamos, todos tenemos un espíritu. Y eso tiene que ver con nuestra relación con Dios. Y uno puede decir, bueno, si estoy bien mamado, sí, hago ejercicio todas las veces, todo el tiempo y me veo súper bien y voy al doctor y me amo. ¿Qué importa si tengo una relación o no tengo una relación con Dios? Y yo creo que esa es una dimensión que tiene efectos, ¿verdad? Tiene efectos sobre tus relaciones en tu vida, tiene efecto sobre cómo tú te sientes en tu vida, tiene efecto sobre el sentido de tener un propósito, tiene efecto sobre la capacidad que tengas para estar solo, tiene efecto sobre la profundidad que tengas como ser humano. Y es una dimensión que no le queremos poner atención, ¿no? En este momento de nuestra vida donde estamos, preferimos pasar mirando Reels o... ¿Cómo se llaman estas cositas? Esta nueva app.
TikToks.
TikToks todo el día que pasar 15 minutos en silencio teniendo una conversación con Dios, ¿no? Es súper contracultural simplemente invitar a la gente al silencio. Entonces, ¿qué piensan de esta dimensión? Porque es importante en sus vidas. Es importante en sus vidas. No, ahora vamos a empezar con Debbie. ¿Qué piensas, Debbie?
Pues la relación con Dios para mí es muy importante. Cada vez que me siento, when it's un love-hate battle, right? Sometimes I'm like really close to God. Other times I'm like, no, I'm okay. You know, I don't need you right now. We're good. Yo puedo sola.
Vete a la esquina.
Y it's every time que I'm good, I don't need you right now, que everything's on the ground. My self-esteem, you know, my family relationships, my every sort of relationship possible sucks. Pero cuando estoy cerca con Dios, everything's wonderful. You know, I love myself. I'm happy. The inner conversations que tengo con mí misma are the best because, well, I am the best. You know, I'm filled with God. Pero cuando estoy alejada de Él, es cuando, I don't want to say I hate myself, pero, you know, everything's just bad. Everything's bad. Y I'm not going to lie. I'm not one of the type of people que is going to read the Bible. I haven't done it. I need to work on that, obviously. Pero I love listening to music. I can sit there and, you know, listen to spiritual songs about God, and, you know, that fills me. Like that's my thing. I listen to it in the car, I listen to it by myself. And that's like my way of getting close to God, I feel like. You know, I'll have my crying sessions, I'll have my uplifting sessions. But every time that I'm with him, I'm good. And I've always said, and I trusted my husband with everything. Si él me hubiera dicho, close your eyes and put a blindfold on, I'm going to tell you how to drive this car with your eyes closed, I would have done it. With him, I felt, I don't know if I can say this, but, you know, I felt badass. I felt like I can do whatever. And it's like, that's how my relationship with God should be. You know, I should be able to trust him with my eyes closed and trust that he is guiding my life the way that it should go. And, you know, that's my struggle. That's where I sometimes have a hard time.
Thank you, Debbie.
That was beautiful.
That was beautiful.
Yeah, that was beautiful.
Thank you.
I think for me, it's probably not as good as I think it is, my relationship with God. I think I used to be in a situation where, like Debbie, it was where I would get close and I would go away, and I would get close and I would go away. And now I think it's more of like I'm kind of just close, but I don't still completely trust him, like you were saying, Deborah, to tell me how to drive the car blindfolded, you know? Mm-hmm. And I know I should, because I'm, por lo mismo that like I feel close to God. I felt pretty close to God a lot, right, in the last couple of, I would say even the last few years. But there are times that I know I need to have a conversation with him and I'll avoid it. Because I'll think like, no, because what if he doesn't tell me what I want to hear? Or other times where I'll know that I need to ask God for forgiveness. And I'll be like, yeah, I'll just, ahorita voy. We're good either way. Like, I feel him close to me. I know he's not mad. And that's the weird thing is, like, God isn't mad when you have to ask for forgiveness, when you have to go to confession, but he just wants you to go anyway. Mm-hmm. And I heard in confession last week that, you know, I want you to know that God isn't mad at you for what you've done. He just wants you to come and receive his forgiveness. And God gives you value because you're a child of God, not because of anything else that you have to do. You don't have to earn God's love. It's just there. So I think once when I heard that, something kind of clicked in my head, like, oh, I don't have to do anything to earn God's love. It's there. Now it's what do I do with it that I can kind of make a positive impact. So I think this was only a week ago. So in this last week, I think is when I felt the closest to God. And probably my whole life, because I felt like I needed to do some healing. And God has welcomed me with open arms. And he's had his arms open. I was just not walking my way over there. I was just a little bit 10 feet away. I was close, but I wasn't there. And yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Jay. I would just leave our audience with another invitation, your relationship with God is going to affect your life in a positive or negative way. You were created with a purpose, and that purpose can only be discovered through your Creator, who loves you and who created you with a purpose. And sometimes I see it every day, with young people we work with. They are hungry for purpose. They are hungry for direction, and we're not going to be able to find it without God. So if you are thinking that by being healthy physically, everything is going to be okay, you're going to be missing something and you're going to feel empty. So we leave you with that invitation to also take care of this important relationship with God. Now I want to move to another dimension, that is the emotional dimension. Y esta dimensión tiene que ver con cómo amo y también si me dejo amar. Por ejemplo, it's very easy for me to go around and giving people love, right? Giving them attention, giving them, giving people love. Mm-hmm. But it is very hard for me to receive love. Whenever somebody is like trying to give me love, I'm like, what do you want? Why are you getting too close to my life? I don't know if I can trust you, So I have all these walls that prohibit me, that don't allow me to receive love in a healthy way. And I think that's also this dimension. When we are not balanced in this dimension, we suffer a lot, right? It has to do with how we love and how we let ourselves be loved. Amamos lo suficiente o nos dejamos amar lo suficiente. How are our relationships with the people we love? Healthy, unhealthy? So we are emotional beings, We have this huge need to be loved. Pero si no somos amados ni amamos de la manera correcta, vamos a estar en desbalance. So esta dimensión emocional es una dimensión a la cual también tenemos que poner atención. And I'm going to pass it to you, Jay, for thoughts on this one.
Yeah, I think as a kid and growing up into my adulthood, I was good at receiving love, but I didn't know why, and I didn't know that I was doing it. And I think the moment that I realized it was when my mom passed away, because then I went looking for it. I was like, I need love, give it to me, Like whatever wall was maybe there when my mom was no longer here, it was gone. And in the last 2 years, I think that's been something that I've actively searched for. And especially like motherly love, like I'll hang out with my friends' moms now, and I'll go out of my way to visit a mom just because it's a different kind of love that you receive than hanging out with a friend, right? So I think for me, I think that's somewhere in my life where I've always been good at it. I've always been able to receive love. Never understood it until recently. And now I go looking for it. So I don't think I struggle with that. And I'm also not like desperate with every person I see on the street to give me love, right? But like once I build a friendship with somebody, like I'm pretty good now at like being able to tell when somebody genuinely cares about me, and I can let people in. I think what I've struggled more with is giving love. And I think that's probably because just as a Latino man, you're not taught to be emotional in that way as a kid. I wasn't raised to express my feelings and how I felt. And, even telling my parents that I loved them was really awkward for me up until I was in my 20s. And that's something that I've definitely gotten better at in the last few years. And now I'm able to tell people that I love them, but I think sometimes I don't always show it. And it's not enough to just tell somebody that. I think I also need to work on being better at showing it. So I think for me, that's what I struggle with now. And I think that that's also a part of to tie it back to the self-love, like you have to be able to give as much as you're able to receive to have like a good balance there.
Yeah. Debbie?
I have no problem expressing love. I tell everyone I love them, I hug them, I kiss them. I'm a very affectionate and a very vocal person. It was like that growing up, as far as like hugging, kissing y eso. But then there was always like a very negative thing to it también, with like negative, I don't know, I guess you would say affirmations. Eres huevona, eres floja, you're dumb, you're fat. Así cosas that get stuck in your head. Mm-hmm. So creces con eso, or me, right? Crecí con eso. But as far as like getting it affection wise, yeah, I didn't have a problem with that. It was more of the mental. So then I go into these relationships where I'm overly loving. And some people who are not used to getting love, maybe, like affectionate love, maybe take advantage of your vulnerability. And, si me decía, no, pues estás bonita. Oh, I was right there eating it all up. And ahí me tenían como, because I was insecure about that stuff. So if I was hearing stuff that I wasn't hearing at home, it got me into bad relationships where, getting cheated on y así cosas. But I was at a very young age. Ahora olvídate. None of that stuff slides through me. Pero I let a lot of stuff go because I didn't have that, I guess I wasn't mentally strong to stand up for myself, to love myself, and to be like, no, yo valgo mucho. Not just because you're telling me I'm pretty and whatever, me dices que me quieres, ahí me vas a tener. But, that's just something that I wasn't hearing it at home, that I was hearing outside. And, it got me into bad relationships.
Sí, y yo creo que por eso es tan importante estar en balance con nuestra dimensión emocional. Porque si no amamos de una manera balanceada, vamos a terminar en relaciones no buenas para nosotros, ¿verdad? En relaciones desbalanceadas donde recibimos o damos más amor. Y al final del día tenemos que buscar relaciones balanceadas donde amemos y nos amen de una manera balanceada, ¿no? Y yo creo que esto es importante para... No podemos decir que nos amamos y estar involucrándonos en puras relaciones tóxicas, por ejemplo, ¿no? El amarte también implica cuidar tu vida emocional.
And it's hard because you hear it so much que te lo empiezas a creer. Well, maybe I am dumb, I'm not as smart as I think I am, or maybe si estoy bien gorda, and then you start looking at, well, I can fix that, and that needs some work on. But it's like a switch that you have to do in your head. Si sigues, estoy mensa, estoy gorda, estoy fea, estoy, all of this stuff, you're believing it. So it's like, now you have to give yourself those affirmations para cambiar tu pensamiento, and then, you radiate. Estás bonita, estás como sea physically, but your mental has to match too, because if it's not, you're all messed up.
Sí, las palabras que nos decimos a nosotros mismos tienen un impacto, ¿verdad? Lastly, this one is going to be our intellectual dimension. And a lot of us don't like to talk about this one. But just to talk about this one, I will challenge everybody. Remember that one day when you learned how something worked? Or a very fun fact, how you felt. You felt good, right? Like, we are created to learn. We are created to be smart. We are created to be productive. We are created to create. So, cada vez que estamos estancados en nuestra vida, donde no estamos aprendiendo algo nuevo, desarrollando nuevas habilidades, esta parte creativa, intelectual de nosotros está muerta, ¿no? Por eso las personas cuando están aprendiendo algún deporte, cómo tocar algún instrumento, están yendo a la escuela, aprendiendo algo nuevo, siempre se sienten mucho mejor en su vida. They get excited. Why? Because they are paying attention to a very important dimension. That is our creativity or intellectual part of it. So how do you work this one out? You read books, you practice a sport, you practice music, you have practices where your creativity and your intellectual part are developed. And this is going to help you feel better. So, no puedes decir que te amas si tienes una dimensión. Como esta mesa tiene 4 patas y le quitas la dimensión intelectual creativa, pues nada más queda con 3, ¿no? So how are you developing those areas in your life? Thoughts, Jay, Deborah.
Man, I don't think I'm developing that. I haven't been developing it in a very long time. Antes, I used to do makeup. I used to do hair and makeup, and I've done movies, commercials, all sorts of stuff. And it's a very creative field. I felt good about myself. I would watch the movies, watch the shows, y esperar que saliera mi nombre at the end of the credits. And I'm like, there I am. So that was a very proud moment. Yeah, I felt good, but ever since COVID hit, I've retired that career. Pero, yeah, I believe that. I remember how good I felt when I was being creative, when I was doing something that I loved. It was a new thing. I had never, I did makeup for myself, pero hacerlo where now the whole world is seeing what I'm doing, it's a very vulnerable position to be in. I loved it, yeah.
Pero para mí, it's always something that I've enjoyed. I've been called the nerd since I was a little kid, and I always thought it was a bad thing until very recently. I realized that that's like one of my gifts from God, right, is that I love to learn. I think where I was holding myself back was in what I have been telling myself over the last couple of years. And over the last few years, I've been looking for motivation to do like a lot of things in life because I've just kind of grew up very like, I'll do what I need to do to get by and nothing more. So I've like sought ways to drive myself more. And over the last couple of months, I've been telling myself like nobody gets in my way more than I do. To the point that I believed it so much that I was kind of just like letting things that I knew I had to do go by. So I realized that it was me trying to find myself, me trying to justify like why I wasn't doing things. And I was telling myself that to make myself believe it. And in some way I was making myself unworthy and like self-deprecating. And that was just my mind messing with me. Maybe the devil messing with me también, right? And just remembering that like God's love is what makes me worthy of everything that I want in life. So I love to learn. I'm going to learn stuff because God wants me to be the best that I can be, and he already loves me.
Yeah, and remember, there is a part of you right there that wants to grow. Is the seed is there. You just need to water and take care of it. That wants to develop a creative and intellectual side. And it's important, it's important. Every time we are learning something, we are growing. We are not learning, we are dying. It's important to remember. If you're not learning, you're dying. Well, this was a conversation just about self-love, about answering the question, do I love myself? And we hope that some of the insights of today can be good for everybody that is listening. Muchísimas gracias.
Thank you. Bye, guys. Remember, love yourself. You are worthy. You deserve it. And you are a queen.
Thank you, guys. We love you. We all love you very much. And if you haven't heard it today, we love you. We love you.
No olviden seguirnos en Instagram y en Facebook en Iskali Podcast.
Don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at Iskali Podcast.
Listen with us and experience the joy of the gospel.
Escúchanos y experimenta la alegría del Evangelio. Te esperamos.
Dare to dream.
Atrévete a soñar.